Mr Deputy Speaker, in the March sittings I made the decision, rightly or wrongly, to do some additional public consultation on social media, even though I'd already consulted with many Territorians on this topic in face-to-face conversation. My Facebook post was out of genuine interest to further understand how the wider community felt about the subject of mandatory sentencing for assaults against our frontline workers. The post stated, "I'm interested to hear all your thoughts on mandatory sentencing for assaults against our frontline workers. Frontline workers include police, teachers, doctors, nurses, corrections officers, paramedics, firefighters, shop attendants, etc. Like this post if you support mandatory sentencing, write a comment, send me a message if you want to comment about this topic." Mr Deputy Speaker, I posted on my public and private Facebook pages, and within only 3 hours of posting, I had received over 70 messages from members of the public, colleagues, strangers, workers and acquaintances who were supportive of the updated legislation. I was quite overwhelmed with this response, and I talked about this in my adjournment speech that evening. I also stated that I might just provide an update on the comments, likes and messages in the next sitting. True to my word, here I am, Mr Deputy Speaker. Mr Deputy Speaker, I am completely aware that my role in this parliament does open me up for scrutiny on many levels. However, I did not sign up to receive the disgusting messages and threats from people who deliberately hide their identity, using fake names and profiles. They are keyboard warriors and faceless men and women and should be ashamed of themselves. Mr Deputy Speaker, my desire to interact with the wider community on this topic quickly faded as I received a number of targeted, aggressive and personal attacks sent via private message from people that clearly did not support the legislation. The way I see it, Mr Deputy Speaker, is that it's a real catch-22. I hear from people in the community, and I must say that I agree with this sentiment. We want leaders in this parliament with brains and integrity, but the role of a parliamentarian is so brutal that anyone with brains and integrity thinks twice before stepping up. Imagine what our politics could look like if the public and the media made it easier, not harder, for good people to get involved. But until then, we might just have to keep missing out on the best and the brightest because they're not foolish enough to enter into a career that will only see them being used as targets. So, Mr Deputy Speaker, in keeping with my commitment to be open and transparent in my role here in this chamber, here are the true statistics following my aforementioned post on Facebook. I did post across both my public and personal pages to get as much coverage as possible. The results are, on my electorate page, I received 4 neutral comments, 26 comments against, 26 likes, 5 comments for. On my personal page, I received 1 neutral comment, no comments against, 45 likes, 13 comments for. Between my 2 Facebook accounts that were outwardly public, I received a total of 5 neutral comments, 26 comments against, 71 likes and 18 comments for. In my last adjournment speech in Parliament, Mr Deputy Speaker, I do admit that it was remiss of me not to advise Parliament of the number of people that had commented that they did not support mandatory sentencing for assaults on frontline workers. So to ensure transparency, in total, I will restate that I did receive 26 comments that were clearly against mandatory sentencing for assaults on frontline workers. And I thank those that did take the time to comment respectfully. Mr Deputy Speaker, if you recall, my Facebook post also included the ability for people to send me a private message, and that is if that was how people wanted to voice their concern. I'm glad this was an option, Mr Deputy Speaker, because it is clear that the fear of recrimination in the community for when people speak out is very real for many Territorians, although it doesn't appear that this fear is around for those that swing to the left of the pendulum. And you can take from that what you like. Mr Deputy Speaker, I received a total of 115 private messages over the coming hours and days following my post. So if you add the likes and the for comments and the private messages received from the community, but then you take away the 25 people that liked and commented, because we don't want to double dip, I count, for the purpose of this exercise, 179 people in support of mandatory sentencing for assaults on frontline workers reached out to me. Mr Deputy Speaker, as I previously stated, I'm completely aware that my role in this parliament does open me up for scrutiny, but I stand by the fact that no one in this chamber signed up to receive the disgusting messages and threats from people who deliberately hide their identity using fake names and profiles. The messages were horrible, and every time I picked up my phone, I noticed the increasing levels of anxiety. As a human, I am human, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we all are. I have every right to protect myself and protect my family from this kind of abuse, so I did make the decision to delete the post. I can confidently say that the number of supportive messages I received privately overwhelmingly supported the implementation of this legislation, and some of the messages were extremely personal. I will not betray the confidence of the people that did message me privately, but I have received approval to share one story sent to me by someone whose entire life is dedicated to kids in our schools. The message goes like this. My life was threatened when I was in a principal role. I had to run and lock myself into an office after a father tried to assault me. He ended up smashing up the office doors. He told me he'd be back and he'd kill me, and that I was dead and that he'd murder me. I couldn't sleep for weeks after, and I kept fearing that he'd reappear at the school. One day, another dad walked into the office, and I got a flashback of the person who attacked me, which was really triggering. I do support mandatory sentencing for frontline workers because we can't just skip work and stay away. We deal with hundreds of people and perform essential roles in the community. The father in question ended up locking his ex-wife in the boot of his car while she was pregnant with twins and assaulted her. He was put in prison for that. She sent me an update just a couple of weeks ago and said, I just thought I'd let you know that the parent was sentenced today and he was convicted and found guilty. He received a community corrections order of 12 months under the same conditions of the suspended sentence order. Usually charges of this nature attract a term of imprisonment or mandatory community work orders. However, the judge found that there were exceptional circumstances considering the turmoil caused by his missing child. And just for your information, for background, that day his son had walked home without permission and the father couldn't find him. So he decided that he was going to assault and threaten to kill the principal. He kicked in the office doors, but from her perspective, of course, it seems if a parent is upset, it's okay to assault somebody. She says, I was innocent and simply at work doing my job, and I was his victim that day, totally unexpected. Mr. Deputy Speaker, every day our frontline workers stand as the shield between chaos and order, between crisis and care. They are the backbone of our communities and the first to respond when disaster strikes, and the last to leave when the dust settles. Yet shockingly, their reward for this courage is often violence, aggression, and assault. These are not just numbers. They're our neighbours, our friends, our family members, people who dedicate their lives to helping others, now living in fear for their own safety. As a government, we are sending a clear, unambiguous message. Assaulting a frontline worker is not just a crime against an individual, it's an attack on the very fabric of our society. That is why mandatory sentencing for assaults on frontline workers is not just justified, it's essential. So to those who argue against strong mandatory consequences for those who assault our frontline heroes, I ask, how much more suffering must we witness before you act? How many more lives shattered? How many more workers attacked? Before you acknowledge that enough is enough. If you cannot stand with us in protecting those that protect our community, then stand aside. The NT cannot afford hesitation or half measures. Our frontline workers and the people they serve deserve the strongest protection the law can provide. Let us be clear, in the Northern Territory, violence against those who serve will never be tolerated, and justice will never be negotiable.
Yeah.